Okay, perfect. Well, I'm ready to go. So my first question, we'll see how much participation we can get. Has anybody heard of Nicholas Modig? So is he pretty popular within your organization?
Is I don't know how much he's familiar to the guys in Molde, but I know he's been a lot in companies like Hent and
Okay.
Skanska, a bit bigger companies, national-wide companies in Norway, and has been some kind of a lean, enthusiastic person that has implemented much in those
Okay.
companies.
Okay, so some of what I'm talking about are things that he talks about as well, and the video that I'm going to share that you're going to share for us has some concepts from him. So I just want to make that clear that his work really, in my mind, ties together the answer to our problem, and so everything I'm going to talk about today centers around flow, and so. I'm sure everybody knows what I mean by flow, and I'm probably making it sound a lot simpler than it really is. But really, when I talk about, in my opinion, right, this is all my opinion, when I think about uh, how we can get better and how we can change the industry for the better, it really comes down to that one thing. If I'm When I talk about lean, and I think everyone has their own definition, I I think about it in four different ways. And so please tell me if I'm writing this large enough. But if we were going to look at the foundation, and you've heard this before, but the foundation is, in my mind, respect for people and resources. So I don't know if you have this problem in Norway, but in the United States, we don't respect people. We don't respect resources, and I can prove it. And one of the main things that I can point to for this is in the United States, you'll find, and I'm only mentioning the United States as an example. I have a lot of respect for where you are from, and I'm not too nationalistic. So, uh, in the United States, you'll find projects where there are restrooms that are dirty. They might not even have toilet paper. There are no on most projects no lunch breaks. There are no lunch areas, no lunch tents, and they treat the workers, people in the construction industry here treat the workers like they're second class citizens. They're almost in a different class. And one of the things that comes to my mind is that we're never going to get where we want to be as long as we have a disrespect for human beings on site. And in the United States, construction is a needed industry, and we're never going to not need construction. And we have all the materials and resources that we need, so we have no reservations about wasting them. And so this, from a motivational standpoint, is a really big problem in my mind. Really quickly, can you all hear me still okay? Any interruptions? Okay, we're going to have fun with this. So the second thing is stable environments as for lean. Stable environments with flow that bring problems to the surface. And so I'm just going to write problems and draw an up arrow. So stable environments with flow that bring problems to the surface. And so if we have a foundation of respect for people and resources, the very next thing we have to do is create stability. And Sindri, am I allowed to talk about CPM and some of my thoughts there, or is that off limits?
Do it, please.
Okay. Yeah. So one of the problems that we have, and I'll talk about it, and just for a quick visual, is that whenever I go to a project and they ask me, Jason, let's get stability back here, or maybe the project is in trouble, or they're having financial difficulties, and they have their CPM schedule with the work breakdown structure, and I look at it from a flow analysis, and I filter out, and the filter meaning I summarize out one crew, I will often find this, that if I summarize that whole network, I lost my eraser here in front of 60 people. If I summarize that flow, then the crew was in one area and then the next, and then asked to be in the same area, and then to go backwards, and then backwards, forwards, 2 or 3 areas or 2 or 3 weeks forward, and then straight down and then back. And so what we have here is we do not have a line of balance. It goes back and forward and back. And the problem here is, well, actually, let me ask the question. Can anybody see the problem here? Why would this affect construction negatively, our production negatively, and everything else negatively? Any thoughts on that? I'm sure you have opinions.
We don't have the avatars yet.
I'm not sure I understood that word. We don't have what?
We don't have extra copies of ourselves doing something else in another place at the same time.
Yes. Okay. I know what you mean. You said Avatar. Yes, I love that movie. So you're absolutely right. And there's one concept that I want to talk about, which you probably know, because in a lot of cases, I know that you in Norway are better educated than we are in the United States. But I'm going to ask you a question. If there are 3 people, how many communication channels are there between those 3 people? Any guesses? And Sindri, have we gone through this before, you and me? Okay. If there's 3 people, there's 1, 2, 3 communication channels. And then so let me give you a test. If we do, and by the way, I'm speaking slowly because I don't speak English as my native language, and I want to be very clear. So how many communication channels are there with 4 people? Any guesses? I didn't hear that.
6.
6. You're absolutely right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so let's do this one more time. So how many communication channels are there with 5? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I missed one. Oh, 10. All right, now this gets really complicated. Let's do 6 people. And please help me if I miss one. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Did I hit all of them? I think so. So that means there's 3, 6, 10, 15, but the team size was 3, 4, 5, and 6. And so this is pretty easy math. Has anybody? I can't see if you're raising your hand, but I'm wondering. I'd be curious to see if you've ever heard that concept before. That's something that I recently learned, and if we were to plot that on a chart, right? Then the amount of people on the team size is the steady trend line, but the difficulty in communication goes like this. It's exponential. And so this was something that I hadn't previously realized. The other thing is the effects of context switching. Does that word translate well, context switching? It's basically when we're focused on something and then we have to change, and it takes our minds 15 to 30 to 45 minutes to regroup and to refocus where we're going. And so there's another concept with this, that projects start to fail. And if I was to draw you a little graph here, projects start to fail when we have multiple things we're focusing on. So if there's a person focused on 1 project, 2 projects, 3 projects, 4, 5, and this is 100% effectiveness and 0% effectiveness, then a person, could be somewhere around 90% effective with 1 focused project. But with 2, that slightly that reduces. Maybe you're at 75 or 80, and then 3, maybe you're at 55 or 60. But when you start to get multiple projects, the level of effectiveness decreases because of something called context switching. And then the other thing is when leaders change, that is very detrimental to a team. And so the reason that I brought those things up is because in my mind, this is the problem that we're dealing with most of the time when I don't know if you've ever been on a project and the superintendent, really quick, Sindri, is that what you call the leader on the project in the field, the superintendent, or is it a different word?
You could use superintendent, but in Norway it's called anleggsleder. It's site manager.
Site manager.
Yeah, but
Okay.
you can use superintendent because that's the term.
Okay, so the site manager. So if you've ever heard the site manager say, "I need more people," I need you to load me up with people, or I need more materials here right away. What happens is when that happens, our production actually goes down because people are switching their context from other projects and other crews. Any change in leadership is detrimental to a project, and the effects of the complexity of communication channels on a crew really slow that crew down. And so I'm assuming that in Norway, one of the big problems that you have is unqualified either leadership or workers. I'm assuming this is a problem. And so the question is, what do we do? What do we do with that? And the answer in my mind is that we have to get flow. And so I'm sure you've heard of tact planning. And we all, and you speak Norwegian, German, English, so I'm not as up to speed with this, but from my research, tact is an older word, an older German word that symbolizes rhythm, flow, or the drumbeat, baton. It basically symbolizes the cadence. And so when we use tact planning, and we're able to say, okay, here's a project, or let's just say this is a floor on a project, and maybe the elevator and the stairs are here in the middle. Here are the stairs. We're able to break this building up into tact zones and then say, okay, what is the schedule of just this one area? And break those up into a sequence. So in lean construction, we've heard of pull planning. And what I'm saying with tact is that when you do a pull plan and you have that sequence for an area that might be 10,000 square feet, or what's the translation? Do you use square meters?
Square meters, yeah.
So 10,000 square feet would be approximately, 2,800 square meters, maybe. I don't math very well, but yeah. So
after parted with 3, I think.
Yeah, the silly thing is the United States is a metric nation, but we just don't know it. So if you've done a pull plan, we have flow in that one area, but the question is, does the work flow from area to area? And so using the tact time, and I'm sure that you're all very familiar with this, but I want to go over it. If you said it's 2 weeks before we start the second area, meaning area number 2, when we move to the second area, then your schedule starts to look something like this. And then it's 2 weeks, and then we start this third area. Then again, the schedule starts to look similar down here at the bottom. And what's interesting is if you start to filter out specific crews of work, then you'll see that line of balance. And this doesn't fix everything, but I think this is a major contributor to the problems that we have in construction, because in pull planning or in last planner, and you're familiar with last planner in Norway, correct? So that's part of the solution. But if you have a pull plan, we'll never understand flow until we compare the pull plans together, until we see them together and how the crews flow within them. So if we have the flow of the actual area, then do we also have the flow of the work going from area to area? So it takes these two pieces in order for us to be successful. And so one of the main things that I feel like we have to do is to design flow into our projects, and then if you see this line of balance here, our crew sizes can stay the same. Meaning if this was a 4-person crew, maybe it's a 4-person crew, 5, 4, 4, 5, instead of 4, 8, 16, 4, no work, you get what I'm saying. So the reason that we're losing productivity, and I'm going to talk about this, and I probably haven't said anything that you don't already know, but now here's where I'm going to do a good job. That's just me joking around. I'm actually not arrogant, and I'm not I'm not the owner of Tesla. But this is this is what I think is the key thing here. In the United States, the bottom 25% of workers are more productive on average than what we bid. And the top 25% of workers are 4 times as productive as the bottom 25%. When they do studies, this is exactly what happens. And so if you take this as an average, and I'll draw this line here, this average is the rate of production for the bottom 25% of people in their crews. Our bid units are actually lower than that, meaning we submit estimates based on something that's lower. So then I'm going to ask you the question. If we say that our problem is that we're not getting production and we don't have skilled workers, and but I'm telling you right now that statistically they're more productive when they're doing their work than the average estimates, then what is our problem? And I'd like to get 2 or 3 comments here to see if we can focus on this. What is our problem then? And Sindri, tell me how I think that we have maybe 40 more minutes. Is that a correct time?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good. That's good.
So let's get a couple of comments. If this is true, then what is our real problem in construction?
What do you think, Rune? Are you there, Rune Stenberg?
I'm here.
Hi, Rune.
I'll turn my camera on as well. Well, it's always dangerous to generalize, but I think you already perhaps touched the subject that we move people around a lot. We changed around the crews, so there's no flow and no stability, or the lack of it could be an issue. And stable environments would result in a better outcome in terms of productivity.
Well, there's a good and the bad in what you just said. The good is that you got the question perfectly right. The bad is that we don't have room for other comments now. So thank you. Here's something that was really interesting to me, and this was an eye opener and something that I've recently learned. It isn't, and we're going to show that video here pretty soon. It isn't when the crew is working that's the problem. It's the transitions. So I'm just going to draw these circles, and this is a game-changing concept. So let's say this is when that crew is actually working. They're laying pipe, or they're putting up ductwork, or whatever they're doing. They're actually working. It isn't here that we're losing money. It's the transition between when them and another crew starts, or between when they do one task and when they do another task. It's these transitions. In fact, I'm going to draw that in red. And so this is the key in my mind, is that in at least where I am, we've been telling workers, hey, you need to make your production rates. You need to do a good job and hit your units. You need to install this many linear feet a day. And they're focused. Where are they focused? They're focused here. And you've heard the concept of you can't manage what you can't measure. Well, we're measuring this, but we don't have a problem with this. This crew, when they actually get to put up that duct or install that pipe, and I'm only talking like this passionately because I love this subject. I'm not lecturing you, but that crew in that flow, we don't have a problem making our units in that flow. When they can go, not a problem. I don't even need to track it. I don't even need to track it. It's the transitions. And so I was in front of yesterday 45 foremen at a company, and we were having a conversation, and here was the realization that I made. Let's pretend if I'm a foreman, well, what do you call a foreman in Norway? So if you have the site manager and the
Foreman,
person leading
it's the same.
the foreman.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you have a foreman, think about where their mind is. When they say, "Oh, I want to go do a good job," when does the game start and when does the game end for them? The game starts when they start their crew, and as soon as they hit a roadblock, that's when the game stops. That means if I'm a foreman, I'm like, okay, we're going to make our units, we're going to go install this work, we're going to do it, and then all of a sudden we hit an unforeseen condition, or there's a piece of missing material, or whatever, and then all of a sudden, game's over. All right, hey, we need to regroup, pause, go load up the truck. I'm in the game when I start, and I'm out of the game as soon as I hit a roadblock, and then it's somebody else's problem. For the most part, not all foremen do that, but it's somebody else's problem. And why do they think like that? Foremen and workers aren't bad people. It's because we as an industry have asked them to make sure that they are doing a good job here. But we don't have a problem here. And so I'm going to show you this video by Nicholas Modig, or Sindri's going to do it, but I want to ask you a question first before we do it. I would like to get 5 comments. What are the things in between work when we're doing those transitions that are actually costing us a lot of money and time? Can I get 5 comments? What are these problems in the transitions? Please unmute yourself and give me your thoughts.
For example, that the drawings are not ready.
Yep. Drawings not ready. That is perfect. Keep going.
Lack
of materials.
Yes. Okay. Lack of materials. Okay. What else?
Wrong tools for the job.
Yep. Wrong tools.
You can't get access to the area.
Yeah. No access. Okay. What else? One more.
Reselling tools.
Lack of workers.
Yeah. So, I think I heard the last one okay. Changing the direction or the plan. Okay, so this is good. So let's go ahead, and I want to talk about those transitions right now. So if you could share your screen and play that video, and you can still hear my audio, I'll ask you when to stop if that's okay. So this is really good content, and then we're going to finish up here and have a great time.
There. Let's hope this works.
Interesting decisions, which I think Toyota is making a little bit different than many other companies. But 3 different decisions, and that's what I'm going to talk about here today. So the first decision is how we view efficiency. And here's an example. I've taken this example from healthcare, and this is a story about Alison. One morning, she feels a lump in her breast. And she gets, of course, worried. And in Sweden, the diagnosis process looks like this. She gets in contact with the local doctor's surgery. She gets an appointment after a while. Then she meets the doctor, investigates the breast. If they cannot rule out breast cancer, they will write a referral to the mammography. Unfortunately, she has to go home for a while and wait. Then she goes there, she makes the mammography, she goes home again. Then after a while, she will meet the breast surgeon who got the result from the X-ray. Once she have met the breast surgeon, if they still cannot rule out breast cancer, they will write the referral to the cytologist. And the cytologist makes this puncture, a biopsy of this potential tumor. Again, she gets the appointment there, she goes home, and then the last step in this process is to meet the breast surgeon again, where they can say, you have breast cancer or not. So we have a fairly long process here. How long do you think it takes? 2 months, it's a fairly good answer. 42 days. So that means if we were to put up the film camera, I mean, metaphorically speaking, if we were to put up a film camera on her shoulder and film this process, we would have a fairly long movie, meaning 42-day long movie. But if I were to give this to someone and say, well, here I have a raw material, it's a 42-day long movie, it's not really an action movie. If we were to cut that down into an action movie, how long would the action movie be? Very short, because we know this is an example from other part of Sweden. And they developed something called a one-stop breast clinic, where all the doctors work together. There were 7 people, the radiologist, the cytologist, and the breast surgeon working together with different nurses. And you could go there as a woman, and you could get very fast treatment. So they were actually able to do it in 2 hours instead of 42 days. This means that the difference is quite big, 500 times faster. And the question here is, how is this possible? This was just some years ago in Sweden when they made this improvement of 500 times. Well, I think this is the first choice. How do we define efficiency? And we have 2 forms of efficiencies. The first way to define efficiency is to take the perspective from a resource. That would be to put up a film camera on the doctor. And when the doctor comes to work, he or she want to have action on his or her camera during the whole day. So we want to utilize the competence of a doctor or a nurse or an X-ray machine or the equipment. So we put up the film camera on the actual resource. So theoretically speaking, we can say, well, here we have a resource. We want to utilize that resource, so we have to secure that we have different flow units. So we have the doctor here, we film her every day and secure that she always has something to process. So we maximize value adding time. But in the other type of efficiency, we put up the film camera on Alison. And that means on the patient or what is being processed, the code or the house that is being renovated. We put up the film camera on the flow unit instead. That means that we take a different perspective on efficiency. Instead of putting up the film camera on the resource, we put up the film camera on the flow unit. That means that we are not maximizing value adding time, we're maximizing value receiving time. So this is the very core of our operation strategy. Are we maximizing value adding time or value receiving time? Shall the patient adopt to the doctors or shall the doctor adopt to the patient? In the internal document at Toyota, they said, learn TPS in 1 sentence. And they said, it's better to attach people to work than work to people.
Pause.
So secure that.
Okay. I don't know if anybody has seen that clip before, but I love that clip. I absolutely love that clip. I don't know of a better way to say it myself. And he has written a book called This is Lean that talks about flow that is absolutely fantastic. The big secret, and I'm about to get to the point here, but the big secret is that on our projects, we have to start with what's called throughput. And you all probably know this, but let me reinforce it here, is that using this example, and I'm going to ask you some questions with it. If you have a factory, this box represents a factory, and there are a number of pieces of equipment in this factory, and the product, the raw materials come in and they go from machine to machine all the way through and then out. The rate at which this factory produces product is called your throughput. It's the rate at which we produce this product. And if I told you that this machine right here could produce 4 parts per hour, and this could do 4 parts per hour, but this one could only do 2, and this one could do 4, and this one could do 4. What would be the throughput of this system if it's working at full efficiency? Can somebody give me a guess? What is the throughput? 44244. What is the rate of throughput for this facility if it's working at full efficiency? There are no wrong answers. We won't even know who spoke up. Tell me.
Less than 2.
Okay, let's say it's less than 2. Now, what could we do with this 2 here? If these are 4, what could we do here to fix this? Whoever answered before, please keep answering my questions for this one, then I'll let you go. So what could we do right here at this 2 parts per hour machine?
We could put on more resources.
Yeah, so we could buy another piece of equipment that was 2 parts per hour and increase the capacity of that line. Now, if this was 4, 4, and there's 4 because you have 2 of them, 4, 4, what is the throughput of this system? Anyone? I love you guys. What's the throughput?
A little bit less than 4.
Okay, so you say a little bit less than 4. Okay. Now, what if you couldn't get another piece of equipment? What if it was a 2? What else could you do in this system? I can't speed this up. What else could I do?
Lower the takt.
Yep, so you could change all of them to 2. Slow these down to 2. Now, what is the throughput of this system? 2. So this is the great secret in construction. And if you all already knew this, then I apologize for wasting your time. Send me the bill and I'll pay it, because this was a revelation to me when I learned it. Is that when I told you, hey, everyone work at full efficiency, 44244, it really is less than 2. So it's really at an average of like 1.5 is the throughput. If I made 2 machines here that have 2, and it's 44444, my throughput is actually 4. Okay? But if I slow everything down and say, even though these have the capacity for 4, but I'm going to make them go at 2 parts per hour, and I'm going to slow it down to match this one, what is my throughput? It is 2. So what do we learn from this? What we learn from this is that individual efficiency, like Nicholas is talking about, is not good for our construction sites. And not understanding this one concept is one of the main reasons we spend millions of dollars or millions of euros on construction projects. And it's because we don't have flow. We don't have throughput. And I'm going to ask you the question, and I'll answer it for you, but think about it in your own minds. Why, when I tell you if it's 44244, why is it 1.5? That doesn't make sense, Jason. Well, let me ask you this. What happens between this piece of equipment and what happens between this piece of equipment if they're working at full efficiency?
Storage.
Yes. Inventory piles up, and then you take up space, and then resources from these equipment have to go and move them and manage them and deal with the interruptions of them. And so that's the big secret. That's the big moment that in construction, additional manpower and additional materials are actually waste. And when we look really busy, that's the less real work that we're actually doing. So if we look at the 8 wastes, and this is something that we all know, but if we overproduce, right, then we have an excess inventory of materials or dirt or an open site or ductwork or whatever, anything. We have an excess inventory, and when we have an excess inventory, then we have to transport that inventory. And when we have to transport it, that creates motion, which is waste, and that creates injuries with our workers. And when we have extra motion and transportation, we get defects, not just from moving it, but because we're not focused on what we should be. When we have defects, we have over-processing. And when we have over-processing, we have workers waiting. And then with all of this waiting, it was a waste because we didn't use the team's ability to plan, or we didn't use the genius of the team. So you've all heard this, but the most important consideration, this is the mother and father of all other waste. Overproducing something and excess inventory is the mother and father of all of these other wastes. And I'm telling you, we are not losing our money here when the crew is actually doing work. We are not. It is in all of the transitions. It is in the not having an evenness or a good transition between all of the other trades. And so this is the key here. So I want to talk about, and I'll want that drawing back again. So I already regret that. But when you have so there's two keys to this, and if you're going to write anything down, I really would like you to write this down if you're going to take notes. So if you're saying, okay, Jason, I'm starting to understand this concept of flow, then what do we do about it? Well, we plan flow into the project as our first priority. If we have to use CPM, then we will create a TACT plan to begin with, and then we will build the CPM schedule off of that TACT plan. The second thing is we will bring materials just in time. And you've heard of this phrase in lean, just in time, correct? Okay. People talk about this, but people really don't do it. And then the other thing is limit work in progress. So WIP, work in progress. I'll actually spell that out. Limit work in progress, because work in progress is bad. And finish as you go. And TACT does all of these things. If done well, no, even if it's not done properly, it accidentally actually does this. So when you think about a CPM schedule, and somebody said, okay, this schedule that changes every week, and that not only do you, the problems with CPM is that it fools you with the detail. It makes you think that it's a better schedule when it's not. All of it is just a wild cuss word guess, meaning if I was going to cuss on this, I'd say it's a wild beep guess. Like, it's all a guess. There's nothing scientific about any of it. And then the forward and backward pass and the concept of a critical path is probably one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life. What it's saying is we're intentionally planning a project to where a single string of activities, if delayed, are going to delay the project. That's stupid. Why would anyone do that? We have to have buffers, and we have to understand that we're never going to run at 100% efficiency. So the other problem, which is the biggest financial problem with CPM, is that if somebody said, yeah, bring out just-in-time deliveries, well, that schedule is always moving back and forth. So go ahead and tell your office, go ahead and tell your project manager, go ahead and tell your trades to bring out materials just in time, and you'll see it sitting out there in the yard. And what happens? Then you have all of the other wastes. But if you do TACT planning and you hold the schedule, so that means you've planned your first sequence and now you know, here are my other sequences, okay? And I have a nice line of balance, and I know that I need to bring out materials here, 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 here. We do not want our site managers moving the schedule. We want to hold that schedule. Now, if when they get to this date, they're like, okay, we're getting better production, then you can talk to the whole team, look at all of the supply chains and say, okay, maybe we make a shift. But for the most part, we don't change it. And so that does two things. It keeps manpower and it keeps materials consistent. And here's the paradox. when manpower counts are down and when materials are down, then profits and productivity go up every time. When manpower increases on a project site and when materials increase on a project site, your profits and your schedule will suffer every single time to the tune of millions of dollars. And so when I hear site managers saying, "Oh, I need more people. I want you to bring all the materials out here. We've got to push and run hard." No, no, that is the worst thing you can do. Even when a project is doing badly, if you're 6 months from the end or 4 months from the end, and somebody's like, "Okay, we're in a rush. It's crunch time. We've got a problem here," and they say, "All right, start bringing out people," they're going to take longer than if I came there or you came there and said, "Let's create a flow plan from here to the end and have a steady, consistent flow to the end." They will actually take longer with more people, with more money, and with a less quality product than if you just created a plan to finish to the end with a flow. And so these are some key concepts for us. So what do? We start our projects with a tact plan, and we protect that flow as our top priority. In Arizona, we're allowed to carry guns. I would carry my gun on the I'm just kidding. If you don't like guns, I'm sorry, but I'd be like, okay, if anyone messes with my flow, I will shoot you, and I'll go to jail for the rest of my life, but that's that important. The other thing is I want materials just in time, so site manager, we are not going to move this schedule every day. We are going to hold the schedule and put it into a rhythm, into a production rhythm. And we are not going to work everywhere on the project. We are going to limit the areas where we're working and focus on one piece flow. And as we go through, we are going to finish areas, at least the scopes that are doing them, we're going to finish as we go. These are the 4 key things that will give us the biggest return on everything that we're doing out there in the field. And so, can you play that second video, Sindri? I think we're ready for it.
Describe what it is by using soccer or football. I mean, in football, if we were to develop a flow-efficient organization in football, we can say that the ball would be moving all the time. So a flow-efficient soccer game, then the ball would be moving all the time towards the goal. That would be flow efficiency. But in order to be able to do that, we need to access the right information. What I mean here, irrespective of who you are on this football pitch, if you're this person here or this person here or this person there, everyone can see the football pitch. And everyone can see the players, everyone can see the goals, and everyone can see the actual football. So that means everyone has a perfect understanding of the process of the game. One look away, without any effort, you have perfect understanding of all the information. Furthermore, if something good happens or something bad happens, then we have a referee blowing the whistle and say, well, here we have a goal, or here we have a red card or yellow card, or whatever it is. Everyone gets instantly access to the information about when something good or something bad happens. Then the last thing is that everyone has a perfect understanding about the progress. I mean, here we have 89 minutes and 30 seconds, and it's 5-1. Everyone has a perfect understanding about the progress of the game. It's not like after the game, we ask each other, who won the game? I mean, we know exactly who won the game instantly because we have perfect progress control. And I would say that's the last thing that they work with at Toyota. So everyone sees the system, everyone knows the goods and bads, and everyone has a perfect understanding about the progress. The problem with organization is that we don't have this perfect understanding. Rather, our organization looks like this. And I mean, welcome to Sweden. This is how we do it in Sweden. We don't play soccer. We put up tents on the soccer, and we have incentives. If a football comes in our tent, we kick it out as fast as possible. And the faster we kick it out, and the more balls we kick out from our tents, the more value we create. And this is, in fact, exactly how organizations work today. And what is happening? I mean, we have no control of the system. We have no control about the goods and the bads because we're stuck in our tents. And we have no control about the progress. I mean, it's only one player here. The rest are stuck in their tents. And this is, going back to the video, This is the Jidoka principle. How can we create an organization where we know exactly what is happening just one look away, one glance away? That's the conscious organization. We know exactly what is happening. I mean, the first time when I visited the role model shop, the manager took me and said, Niklas, I'm going to explain for you what Jidoka is. And he put me in the middle of the room. He said, well, look in this direction, you know exactly how many cars we have sold today. You see that we're a little bit higher than yesterday, but it's still not that good. And here you see the development process of attracting new customers, and here we have the distribution process, here we have the sales process, here we have the service process, and here we have the capacity utilization. Is that in 90 seconds, you know exactly how we're doing today compared to normality, how we're doing this week compared to normality, and how we're doing this month. Just
Let's
one
pause.
look away. And that.
So this is another, and I after this meeting, I hope you share this video with everyone. That's the point. Why does CPM hurt people and hurt families? Because you can't see if you're winning. And you also can't see that you're hurting people. Or you, me, I, any of us. There's a concept called latency. We have to be able to see problems immediately and bring them to the surface and fix those problems to clear the path. So if you can pin my video, I'm almost done. In order for us to get this done, a project team has to focus fanatically, almost like we're crazy, on the removal of roadblocks. But roadblocks will never come to the surface without stable systems. Roadblocks will never come to the surface unless we have a flow. Roadblocks will never come to the surface unless we have that scoreboard. Roadblocks will not come to the surface in CPM. So it's just not going to happen. And so the way we can enable flow, these are the three things. We can remove roadblocks ahead of time by creating stability and flow. Maintaining that flow throughout the project, and this is what I mean. When the owner asks us to start the project before we can even get materials there, that's not flow. We need to have a conversation and do it when it needs to start because we're wasting money. When the owner says, change direction, and reroute everybody and all of these materials, and we just do it because they're the owner, that is costing us tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars to do that. We need to protect that flow and have better conversations. When there's a problem with a procurement issue, do we just go to another area and work? Or do we actually go back and do another flow analysis? When a crew gets an interruption, do they pull themselves out of the game and just say, hey, you two, you go move that dirt back and forth for 2 days to look busy? Or do they go ask the question, what can we do to stop right now and actually fix this problem? You see what I'm saying? There are decisions that on a constant basis, if we learn these principles, that will change how we do things. And Sindri, I'm assuming we have 5 minutes. Is that correct? Okay. The other thing is one piece flow. Doing one thing at a time. That doesn't mean I build 10,000 square feet or 2,800 square meters and then I finish and then go to the next one. I'm saying each scope goes from area to area to area. And I'll give you 2 examples of this. And this costs us more money than almost anything else. Let's say we have a kilometer. Ooh, I'm doing good. I'm almost Norwegian now. I just said kilometer. So we have a kilometer here of pipe. There are so many contractors out there that will go clear the vegetation, the trees and everything for the whole mile. And then they'll start digging way out in front. And the pipe crew is installing water mains way back here. What's the problem with this? It looks busy, but it's wasting a ton of money. Because as soon as we overproduce something, now we have to go put water on it for dust control. Now we have to watch the stormwater drainage and all of the protections. Now we have to put up traffic control for the entire thing. Now we have to maintain entrances into people's homes through the entire thing. It is not this that is costing us the money. It is this. It is all of the in-betweens and the waste. One other example, if we have a 320 acre site, how many times do we go and we remove all the trees all at once, and we grade all the pads, and then we start to come in here and we start to install utilities to all of these pads. I don't know if you can see. You can start to install these utilities, and then guess what we have to now do? Because it rained, and we've got pads built this whole area. It rained, and now these underground utility contractors have messed up the pads. Guess what? We get to regrade this 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. And oh, by the way, they brought the materials in and put it here. Instead of putting it here, they put it here where we're going next. Oh, yep. Now move that pile. Okay, move that pile. Oh, the owner changes direction, go in this direction. Now we have to switch our operations here. Okay, that's another $80,000 out of the window. It's all of the transitions. And so the things that we have to do to make this better is to plan visually with our owners what our flow is, make sure that we're having better conversation, limit the amount of work in progress by doing things just in time, and making sure that we finish things as we go, because it's the rework, it's the overprocessing, it's the movement, it's the transportation, it's the wasted man hours, it's these things that are costing us all of this money. And so I was also on this call supposed to talk about what I call the integrated production control system. I'm just going to tell you this because I'm out of time and I have 2 minutes. My definition of lean is, number one, respect for people. And I'm just going to summarize words: people and resources. You know, why is it important in Japan to respect these things? Well, they got this from their rice culture and their family culture. By the way, I love everyone in Europe and your country and your countries over there. I'm just using Japan as an example. And then why do they respect resources? Because they live on an island. Number two, why do we need to create stability with flow that brings problems to the surface? We want problems to come to the surface. We want to see them. We incentivize people to find them. We want projects finding more of them. We want to find them quicker. We want it more visual. We want to see where they are. We want people to be absolutely addicted to finding problems like they would be addicted to being on heroin. And number three, total participation. And when I say total participation, I'm saying through visual systems, how we set up our project site, and then continuous improvement. You're probably going to see I spelled something wrong, and an absolute fanatical attention to quality. This is my definition of lean, because you can't continuously improve and install a quality product unless you have everybody on your site heading in that direction together with visual systems. You can't get total participation unless you have the ability to participate in a stable environment and see the problems. And you cannot create stability ever unless you started with respect for people. And so I'll close out with this. I'm 2 minutes past, is that, and I can send you these papers, but the integrated production control system is where we plan the project, we win over the workforce, first and foremost, and build our project management team. And we create a beautiful, stable environment with remarkable trailers and visuals and a clean and a safe and an organized site. And then we hold people accountable to following those behaviors, because if I have a tax plan and I have a stable environment that's clean, safe, and organized, and I have workers that are respected, that are participating with me, I can create flow, and that is what's going to bring us from where we are to where we want to be from a time and a financial perspective. And we have only begun to scratch the surface with this. So I don't want you to have to need more workers. I want you to train the workers you have and to be able to do remarkable work with smaller crew sizes, less materials on site in a flow. And that's my talk this morning. I hope that it's been valuable.
Thanks. That was great, Jason.
Thank you.
I got familiar with everything that you said, and it was very logical and was easy explained. But the thoughts that was figuring out in my head was all of those bits and pieces seems like a philosophy. It's more as of a vision. Is you have something in you that you will push into the project, and it's a system, yes, but it's also something culture about it that builds people and leaders. So I believe in very much in your content. So thanks again, and now we're going over to the sliding directly over to the discussion part. We're not going to have this presentation up for long, but I want to introduce the panel that we have with us. With this topic that Jason has talked about, I think we have the greatest people in Contech to talk about it and just to discuss with Jason what he said and possibilities, and also the topics leadership and training. So with us we have Bjørn Ungersnes from Lean Communications. He's the CEO of that company, who is a consultant in Lean, and probably have a lot of courses in this topic also. So he has a lot of knowledge. And we have Rune Stenberg, who is also has been here and talked and asked a little bit questions and or answered questions. Rune is one of my colleagues from the Army. We went to the officer schools together, and we have I think we have some of the same background. So Rune is working in Peab and works in Harstad. Is it, Rune? Harstad?
Yes,
Yeah.
Harstad and the region around.
Yeah. You also were in the newspaper. You won a big project, a choice hotel that you were building, and you were proclaiming that TAC planning was your way to win that project, isn't it?
It's hopefully our way to finish the project and make a profit and finish it in time.
Yes, good. Also, we have with us Jonny Skår from Rødbergbygg. Jonny was with me and Frode on the course of ISO 19650, and is the CEO of Rødbergbygg, which is a general contractor in Molde. Are you there, Jonny?
Hello, here I am.
Hello. And last, we have my brother, my smaller brother. That's important. And in the same room, Eivind Lange from Kunsto. Eivind was also with us when I first spoke with Jason, and we have had a good talk. So we have a great panel. If somebody wants to ask something, or raise their hand, or just write it in the chat so we can ask it. So that's the panel. I want to ask some of you if you have any comments or thoughts about what Jason just presented. So just feel free and take the word.
I would just like to compliment Jason. I think it was a very good explanation of how we see the industry, and especially the point around flow efficiency and resource efficiency. Because I think it's a very important thing that we have so many skillful people in the industry, and we never have to underrate that one. We have to use the skillful people, but we also have to make them understand that flow efficiency is the way to go, because the mind is so set on resource efficiency. So that's the main thing, to try to change minds in the project and actually get them to understand it, because it's easy to understand the lecture, but they actually have to get it in the backbone. They need to know how to act and actually get it to go. And then we come over to, I think they need more extensive, good training in some kind of.
Yeah.
You have to experience it. You can't just listen to it. You have to that's important. How do we get the whole project to? How do we get the total project to actually act according to what we mean? So I have some thoughts, but yeah, thank you, Jeff.
Great.
You're welcome.
What do you think, Rune?
I think that I would like to compliment Jason for sharing his thoughts with us. It was very useful. And I think that the issues that we brought to the surface here are universal, regardless of where you are in the world and the size of the project. And but it's really useful to get it structured, and it's certainly something that I will take to my organization and bring forward. Lean and flow is sort of a buzzword right now, and I think that at least all the major construction companies have a philosophy that's sort of linked into lean, but going from philosophy to getting some output of it, most of us, I think, still have a way to go. And I really like what Jason said about respect. Just 10 years ago, and probably still today, it was sort of the way we did it when we planned the project was that the site manager or the project manager would lock himself in the office for 2 weeks, and then, like Moses came down from the mountain with the tablets, you would have the production plan, right? And the realism of the plan was probably not too good, and the involvement of the plan was not good. And as soon as something went wrong, then everybody was pointing at the plan. Yes, it's not realistic, and it's not our plan. So involvement, I think, is key here, and respect. So, and from my experience, key is when you first involve all the subcontractors and all the different teams in the project in planning, but also when you're able to implement this out on the construction site, when you get involvement all the way down in the project, that the crews take pride in producing, being on schedule. A lot of companies you get like a traffic light in accordance with the TACT plan, right? If you're on schedule, if you need to pay special attention to something, or if you're off. And yeah, this week we got all green lights. Yes. If you're able to get that sort of mentality on the project, then that's always good. But it surprises me how it seems so simple, but I find myself struggling most of the times, and the few times that I've experienced like really good projects, it's because I think we've implemented things all the way down.
Yes, but what do you think is wrong? What systems are we not able to implement? Where do we start to grow that culture of learning and the enthusiasm of those visual planning and everybody understand this, and professionality and all of those? Where do we begin to fix it, do you think?
I don't think there's like a universal solution to everything, or that one way of doing it is better than another. I think it's the actual process that's essential. And our CEO sort of has a mantra that is we work a lot of overtime, weekends and things at the end of the projects. And if we just move some of that input into planning early ahead before we even start doing anything, then I think efficiency would be a lot better.
Jonny, you have raised your hand.
I think Björn was first.
Oh, Björn, you go
Okay,
first.
Yeah, just really fast, because I think it's important to start with the why. A lot of people come to us, for example, I just want to learn a tool. They want to learn Last Planner or tech planning. But what they really need to learn is why do we actually need the tools? So we have to start with the why. I think it's important if you should start somewhere. Understand what Jason was talking about, why we need those tools.
I totally agree, because I started to look at tech planning in 2014 or 15, and then it was so popular with Six Sigma and all those post-its, and everybody wanted to go to that course. But everyone who went to that course came out and just followed to the CPM method again. So they had learned the technique, but they hadn't learned why to use it. So very good. You, Jonny.
Well, Jason, first, impressive and interesting presentation. I got my head spinning here. I've had a lot of ideas, so thank you. From my point of view, it's important to take a few steps back and look at my own organization and how it works out in the projects, and then reveal what is not working, and then go to the tech planning. I'm not familiar with all these terms, but it's most impressive, and I take a note and do it just in time. Do it just in time. That's the mantra, I think. So, well, thank you. You made my day.
Thank you. Can I make a comment here really quickly?
Go.
So, and again, I'm speaking passionately. I'm not assuming in any way, shape, or form that I know better than anyone else. But in my mind, if I could put it, I'm going to shock you with this. If you can get your site managers dancing in a training as grown men, then you can get them to implement lean in the field. So give me just 1 second with that. Let me prove my point. What are the thoughts that come to your mind when I just said that? You're probably thinking, oh my gosh, that's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. There's no way he's ever coming to Norway. I wouldn't do that. And what in the heck is he talking about? And so again, I'm not saying that I know better. I'm just giving you my opinion in a passionate way. You brought up the concept of training because Contech Norway, your organization, knows what the answer is here, right? And you talked about starting with the why. You talked about not using tools. I totally agree with that. If somebody said, if they go to a Jason Schroeder superintendent or site manager boot camp, I'm not selling anything, by the way. I'm just using it as an example. So please, I'm not selling anything. If they go to a Jason Schroeder site manager boot camp and immediately I say, okay, I need you right now, team number 1, you need to right here in front of the class, pretend with 100% enthusiasm that you've just won $50 million. And they have to, in front of the class, pretend with full passion and enthusiasm that they just won $50 million. Or I say, team number 1, please come to the front of the class. You're going to give a 5-minute extemporaneous speech, and you have to do it with your shoulders back, with projection and enthusiasm, and you have to speak for 5 minutes continuously to your subject matter and look everyone in the eye. Or I'm going to kick on a song and we're all going to dance in front of each other right now. Those seem like really unusual methods, and they are. But that's what takes us from a learning perspective from the 5, 10, 15% retention to 95%. Because that little voice in our head that says, oh my God, I'm not going to dance, is the same voice that says, I'm not going to hold that trade partner accountable. That same voice in somebody's head that says, I'm not going to get up and give a speech, is the exact same voice in their head that keeps them from talking to the owner about an impact. So they're correlated. So if this group on this panel, I'm sure now that I think about it, I probably didn't prep very well for this meeting, because everything I said in that presentation seems to be something that you already knew and probably knew better than I did. The key in my mind is what I call the Tony Robbins effect. It's the, how do we get human beings to do it? And my advice with that is that, to your point, I agree with starting with the why. I agree with not just doing tools. And I think that, excuse my irreverence with this, because I don't think opioid epidemic or drug use is funny. But I do think that if drug use is something in the world that we have to deal with, maybe we could learn something from it. I think this is a whole lot more like dealing drugs than anything else. Meaning, if you're going to addict somebody, you give them a free sample, you get them hooked on it, and you share that feeling, right? They have to feel that high, and then they will get addicted to it. When it comes to the site managers or the foremen or the workers, it's about addicting them to that energy and that confidence and that determination to implement tax planning, to implement just in time, to have a clean site, to hold everyone accountable. And it's a whole lot more about confidence in my mind and energy than anything else. And so that's why usually I talk about lean, but I also pair it with these methods of getting a site manager or a project manager to break out of their comfort zone and to actually implement in the field. Because I think, and I could be wrong, so please tell me, I think it's a whole lot more about their confidence and state to actually do it than knowing how to do it. Meaning, if it's like tax planning or CPM, it's like, oh my God, if tax planning fails, it's on me. I'm afraid of that. But if I use CPM, even though I know it doesn't work, it's not on me. What do I do? Right? That's the moment where we have to summon our confidence. Anyway, so I give that to you as my opinion, and it's been wildly successful for me in trainings. And so I'll prove that I'm not selling you anything. I offered to share and learn from you, and one of these days, for free, go take it, whatever. But I do believe that it's not just more training, it's taking our training effectiveness from 10 to 95, 10 to 80%, that piece as well. And that percentage increase of people being able to give 100% as a human being in personal development will then allow people to implement the systems and processes that will take us that higher level of productivity. That's my opinion. Probably didn't expect that, huh?
I totally agree, because I can relate it to in the army, when you go to the officer school, which me and Rune went to. It's much talked about the leadership and how we train for that and educate in that. And what surprised me in this training or education in which the army develops their leaders is not based on theory. It's based on building you as a character. It's building your personality to be confident that you can be use empathy. You can relate to very different situations and act on them. So it's a much more focus on the individual and the confidence, as you talk about, than the theory of LPS or the just in time or the TACT, or those are systems, because you have to believe it in yourself to implement it. Because if you don't believe it in yourself, then failure immediately. So I totally agree on that. So the Tony Robbins effect, that we need more Tony Robbins people in our construction sites. So if you have any comment to that, Rune, which also have the same experience as me.
Yeah, I've actually thought about that quite a lot, and I think especially in construction, we are tech guys, we're engineers, or come from a practical background, and we like stuff, we like gadgets, and we like to think that there's a computer program or a technique that would fix everything, right? And there's always the next thing. This sort of program can help you to integrate this and that, and sure, there are a lot of great programs, but my opinion is that it tends to take away focus from the actual process, and I don't think that it's necessarily important if you choose technique A, B, or C, or use program A, B, or C, is that you drill your crew in using that technique.
Can I don't know how much you want me to talk, so if
talk, Jason.
I don't want you to
discussion. Okay. So yeah,
I want to pronounce this right. Is it Rune?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. That was such a beautiful, like, honestly, that was such a great comment. Great comment. I just learned something, and I put the two things together. When we look at European or Japanese lean manufacturing plants or distribution centers or whatever, everything's on the wall. And one of the things that Nicholas Modig talked about was that this concept of active and passive information. And and if you watch the video, which I hope you do, he talks about some people will say, "Oh, I put this board up on the wall, but who's going to update this?" And he's like, no. That's not how lean thinkers think. Lean thinkers will say, here is the active information on the wall, and what parts of that do I need to archive in my database? And so please don't be offended at me if any of you make software, but I find that most software slows us down. Even the project management software, even the lean softwares, most of it slows us down. I can run a $800 million project off of Excel and basic email and Bluebeam and some of those things. It's such a good point, because when we look at this, okay, they have everything on the wall, and even Nicholas said, if I stand here, I can see car sales. I can see customer interaction. I can see these things, right? But if in the United States, I don't know what it's like in Norway, we are not an accountable people. Like and I love the United States, but we are not an accountable people. We're not accountable to anybody. If I throw something over on my neighbor's yard and they're like upset about it, I'm like, well, F you, you know what I mean? Like, like we're just not accountable. In Japan, they have a different culture, right? In certain parts of Europe, I'm assuming there's a different culture of, like in Japan, when they take your and there's bad parts of Japanese culture, but they take your credit card, they'll have a little tray, and you'll set it on the tray, or they make you food and the chef will watch you eat to make sure that your facial expressions, that it's a wonderful experience, right? Sometimes in Japanese culture, they don't even understand how to explain it to us because it's just a given. They will hold each other accountable. They will have a certain sense of like shame or guilt, not shame, guilt for doing something wrong. And there's this respect in there that I don't even understand. Like, we don't understand this in the United States. And I think it's a great point because Rune, you said it better than I could, is that we're telling people to use active information on walls. We're telling people that it's about the human systems. It's about training your crews, like Runa said. I hope I'm saying your name right. If I'm not, I apologize.
You
but
are.
okay. And we, like you said, we are all no. I don't want to talk to somebody in front of a visual and be held accountable. Where's my CPM schedule I can go hide in? I need to go hide in that thing. Where's my software platform? I can go hide there behind my computer. Like, where can I go? And so you just said something that I could not say better, is that we're inviting people into an active visual world that people are most of the time uncomfortable with. And so it's bridging that gap, like you said, that's great. And, in public schools here, you're taught to sit down, shut up, fit into the social group, don't get too focused. Your social standing is given to you by the teacher, and don't think too much. Don't get creative. We're taught to sit down and shut up. And so we have literally been designed and programmed to fit on this conveyor belt in the United States and to be a bunch of worker bees and not leaders. And so I agree. I'll close with this. We have to get people out of that conveyor belt worker bee mentality and teach them to be leaders, because that's what it takes to stand in front of visual systems and hold each other accountable. That was beautiful. Oh man, that was so beautiful.
Great. Some you guys, Bjørnar and Eivind, hasn't said anything. Do you have any comments or questions or thoughts you would like to mention?
Yes. Me and Eivind, we like dancing sometimes when we have time. But it's the time limit and the stress that is difficult sometimes, and very often. And then it's very comfortable to fall back and you use the old techniques and
or no techniques at all.
And you have in your sometimes fire on you that you is fire extinguisher.
Yeah, I'm a professional fire what's the word? Firefighter.
Fire person.
Okay. Yeah. So yes.
But you are very good. I was writing all the visualization that you showed us, because it's you showed it very easily, and for me it's I'm have a problem to get my ideas to my employees. So I was very good.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry about my English.
No, your English is your English is perfect. I was gonna say fireman, and somebody said firefighter, and I'm like, oh yeah, the right word is firefighter. I was in Germany one time, and I was I said it's on the right side, and they were like, no, it's on the right hand side. And I was like, yeah, I don't speak English. I'm sorry, everybody, but I think that's a great point, and I'm not trying to make everything sound easier than it is. And I'll share the PowerPoints, and I'll actually share the PowerPoints with you for free, or if you ever want to do like an hour or 2 hour class with everybody to share forward and back, right, together. I believe that the biggest pandemic in the world of construction is underutilized capacity of human beings. Can I make a drawing here? We have 15 more minutes, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take up the whole time, but well, actually, let me say this first. We all know about personal organization. There's a number of great books, Getting Things Done, Essentialism, The One Thing, Focal Point. There's a number of really good programs and books for personal organization. I find that site managers have to keep a to-do list fanatically. And there are people on LinkedIn and in the world that's like, to-do lists are bad, to-do lists are good. No. To-do lists, even if we never access them again, are crucial. The second thing is, we all know the last planner system, where we do our weekly work plan and then we implement. Each of us as human beings should have a weekly work plan. for our person. We should time block our next week. And let me draw this. For the average, do you have project managers and project engineers, or what do you call those positions?
Project engineers
Yeah,
can do that. But also, Jason, it's possible that somebody isn't familiar with the LPS, last planner system.
Oh, okay.
So if
Okay.
you have a short pitch on that also, so
Okay.
that would be nice.
So the first step is, when site managers don't do well, it's usually like one of 6 things. They're not, and I'm not saying that you are disorganized. You just help me think about this. I'm sure that the 2 of you that just spoke are organized. So I'm not talking about you, but when site managers aren't successful, they usually don't have a personal organization system. They don't have visual schedules with flow. They don't hold people accountable and speak up. They don't know how to delegate, right? And they don't use technology to their advantage, and they don't build their team. And most of the time, the plan is all in their head, right? So everybody in construction has to do very well with keeping to-do lists. And there's this system that I apologize, this is an example from the United States, but there was the Eisenhower method where he said important and not important, and then urgent and not urgent. And so you would do these tasks just in time, you would plan these, you would delegate these, and you would stop doing these, right? So if you have a to-do list and you've organized those in that fashion, we have to do this. The second thing is we have to do what's called leader standard work. And if I could wave a magic wand on the airplane last night, my daughter was watching the new version of Aladdin. And they get 3 wishes. If I had 3 wishes, this would be one of them. Is leader standard work. And this leader standard work it's the 80-20 rule essentially for construction. And I'm sure that everybody knows this, and it probably sounds cliche, but it's very true, that 80% of what we do only brings 20% of our return, and 20% of what we do brings 80% of our return. They first learned this with farming, that 20% of their crops would have that much, 80% of their yield. And they realized that human beings are the same way. So what is a site manager's 20%? The site manager's 20%, we could go through it. It's mentoring, creating visual schedules, allocating or preparing work, right? Maintaining flow, creating lean systems. We could just keep going on and on and on. Seeing the future, dealing with the owner. There are things here that are a part of a superintendent's 20%. If you listed everything that they have to do, this 80% doesn't bring a lot of yield, but this 20% does. And so what I do teach everybody is in their week, and I mentioned project engineers because project engineers will only have about 12 to 15 hours of actual production time in a week. And so when I've tracked it, I've never tracked it because I just didn't care to for other positions. I use the project engineer as an example. But in this schedule, we have to schedule my football games with the family, or date night first, or I'm going to go jogging Monday morning, whatever. I have to schedule family's time first. So first thing is family, and I'm almost done. I won't take up too much time. Second, your leader standard work. If I'm supposed to mentor or take project walks or be in a procurement meeting or develop my schedule or study the drawings or do a walk, I need to have those things scheduled in here in my week. And it needs to be the second thing that I focus on. And then the third thing is everything else. And I would say there's a key to this. Number one For instance, if a project engineer has, I'm going to go do this, and then I have to answer this RFI, and then somebody comes ask me a question, and then I have an owner's meeting, and then I'm going to work on this submittal, and then there's 15 to 30 minutes between each of these things. So if I'm going to go do a site walk, I need to also schedule that 15 minutes to finish the report. I'm not going to push it till later because that adds 30 minutes to that task. So not only can we better time block, and it's not batching, it's called one-piece flow. Batching is actually when you do all your meetings and then all your reports later. One-piece flow is when you just get that done right there when you're doing it. So if I have a site manager that is doing their family first, leader standard work second, and everything else third, that is the leader that will progress. Now here is the key. A site manager will never, ever, 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 ever stop working lots of hours until you constrain your hours. So if this is 50 hours a week, 40, 30, and I'm almost done, I'm already taking up too much time. If this is a chart, and then down here are weeks, and then here's 50 hours, here's 40, I want somebody to use this system and to do one-piece flow and to delegate and to be organized and to use a to-do list and to hold people accountable and not babysit everybody and play savior with everyone. And as they start tracking their time from week to week, maybe I work 60 hours, then the next week 55, and then 52. Okay, I'm doing better. All right, I finally created a system where I'm under 55. Now you have the ability to take care of your family. Now you have the capacity to take care of your family. If you keep tracking that and targeting 30 hours, okay, next week I got down to 48 to get my job done. I got down to 45 to get my job done. The next week I'm down to 40. To get my project done, I'm down to 40 using all of these techniques. Now you have the capacity to implement lean on your project site. So I'm not saying you work less than 50 hours a week, but you use that extra time as a gain to implement lean. And then you're like, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to learn how to get my job done with my scheduling systems and my meetings down to 30. And so I track it. Okay, now this capacity, can anybody guess what this capacity allows me to do? It allows me to focus on the improvement of my career. Now I can go to the office and help with a proposal. Now I can go tour other jobs. Now I can mentor other superintendents or other project managers. So this is key. If we're not, this is essentially the last planner system for, a human. I organize everything. I put first things first in the right sequence and in the right flow, and then I track my status, and I want greater flow of work, but in this case, a greater capacity utilization. I'm not going to stop working 50 hours or 45 hours. I'm going to stop wasting my time, because all of this stuff above 30 hours for the most part in this range, this was all waste. This is time that God is never going to give me back on this earth. I need to be doing better things with it. And so I just feel like the point you all made was so crucial that I want to make that point. If I could wave a magic wand, I would have everybody do the to-do list, use those techniques to do the right things in the right sequence, and I would track my progress and get the capacity to do lean and improve my career. Maybe you're already doing that, so I hope I didn't waste your time. But
Johnny. You have to unmute yourself.
I'm sorry. I'm carried away here. When are you coming to Norway?
I told Sindri to buy me a ticket with my son, and I'll come out there and do this for free. So my son, he'll go on a mission for 2 years for our church, and before we go, I want to take him to Europe, and so I just need people to show me around, and a plane ticket and a place to stay, and I'll come do anything you want for free. That's my deal. And I'm not selling anything. I'm just saying that's my deal. But if it would add value, but
It would.
It would definitely would. We have to respect the time, so we have to finish. And my policy is to try to finish a little bit in front of the proposed time, so people get more time in those schedules to invest in themselves. So
can I say one thing?
Yeah, Jason.
So I just want to say that again, I'm not selling anything. I do consulting and project recovery, but I'm fine. We have plenty of money coming in. I'm fine to share this. I would love nothing more than people in Norway to share with me and me share back and scale these and take anything that I have. The Elevate Construction podcast, if you're not hooked up with it, please check it out. I think you'll enjoy it. The other thing is there's a YouTube channel called Lean Tact. And there's Elevating Construction Tact Planning, a book. It's in its basic form. We're improving on it. And also leantact.com. And those are not like sell you things sites. If somebody's like, well, I'm using tact planning, but I need advice here, you send me an email, we make a video of it, and we just keep pushing those out. And the idea there is my mission is to change the industry and respect workers. If we all have the Tony Robbins effect, but still have CPM, we're still not going to get there. So I'm saying we have to at least get that tool in there with all of these other things, because CPM is by nature of its very existence hurting all of us. So those resources are available for you. Go ahead, Sidri. That's all I had. And thank you for letting me be here today.
Thank you a whole lot. This was very, very giving, a lot of value. I learned a lot, and I think everybody, we have still almost 30 people with us, so it was interesting. Now we're going to take up that pitch you spoke of, Johnny, about getting Jason to Molde, and I want to pitch the idea of putting together a splice, which we call in Norway. Splice is a venture capital. We collect crowdfunding model within Contech Norway, that we build up a model so we can put in some money to buy the tickets for Jason to come to Molde and visit Molde with his son. Then we can have this wow effect, hopefully, with Jason, with all of his enthusiasm and all of his knowledge and insight. And also we can show him the beautiful place Molde and Norway is. So we can create a win-win, and hopefully that spin-off will create something other, and probably we will talk about this in Molde's history in 50 years. Hopefully. Yeah. Please, we want to get some feedback just on today's session. Just scan the QR code and take that up and answer the feedback. We have this there. The QR code is now gone, but the code is up here, so you can give us some feedback. It's easy. Your first time? Is it the first time? Was it worth your time? Did you learn something? Was the meeting well executed? Are you familiar with tact planning? Do we need to have more focus on training and mentoring? And would you be interested in a boot camp here in Molde? So please give us some feedback on that. We will have this live now, hopefully, if people ser ikke kodene. We take that again. This one. There's the QR code. No, you don't see that. There, you see that. I was just talking, and nobody saw something. That was great. Scan that QR code and then you go to the Menti. There.
Yeah.
So while people answer the evaluation schedule, I would thank Jason a lot, and I will also say that I think you have pushed most of us, especially those who have talked in today, out of our comfort zone. I have been very long away from my comfort zone. I'm sweaty, and this English platform is also some kind of challenging. So, but we learned and we had a great time, and that was the idea. So. Thank you again, Jason. It was great. And you see the results coming up. As you see, there are a lot of people who are interested in a boot camp in Molde, Jason. So.
Well, I have to go in 1 minute, but I do want to say sincerely that this is an honor. I appreciate everyone, and I emotionally tie what we do to the well-being of human beings, and so I just want to remind all of us and thank you and give you direct feedback that you're doing a great work, and you probably don't even know, or all of us, to what extent we're actually making a difference, because we all know that it makes a huge difference in the lives of the people that we work with. So I love all of you, and on we go.